Good evening. This is Renee Hessling from City Center Arts, and we have featured artist TJ Ysseldyke this evening. He is going to share with us his artist journey, but just to share a little bit about the gallery, we are in the lower level of the Century Club, which is right at downtown Muskegon, 356 West Western Avenue. Our current hours that we are open are Wednesday through Friday from 11 until 5, Saturday from 10 to 4, and Sunday from noon to 3. And TJ's work will be on display through May 23rd. And then we will have another show coming up after that. But let's get into chatting with TJ and seeing some of his work. And we will open it up for questions from the audience at some point. So TJ, tell us a little bit about yourself and what your artist journey thus far looks like, and how you kind of got to where you're at today.
For sure. So 32, going on 33, from Grand Rapids. I've always been a doodler, a drawer. Always found me at the drawing table as a kid. Even at my house, I would always be at the kitchen table doodling. It's kind of like a compulsion, yes. But I started painting more so than drawing post-college, just to kind of see what happens. So it's always been an experiment, not really trained in painting. I did go to art school for drawing though, so that kind of helps out a little bit. Painted it in 2014, put a painting and art prize, got in. Super exciting experience, but that's kind of turned me off of art for a while. So I just started painting again in late 2019, early 2020. So perfect rate for when COVID hit. But yeah, got back into painting, doing it that way. It was kind of like my way to kind of battle my anxiety at that point. And I still do it today. I compulsively paint anywhere from 3 to 5 hours a night. I was painting while talking to you right before we started this. It's that's kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of trying it out. I'm not used to the art lingo or the art speak, but I'm here for it. Let's do it,
So kind of describe to us, before we will look at some of your work, but kind of describe to us, what inspires you, like when you start a piece. Do you have something in mind before that, or do you just start painting and then kind of discover what you're, talk about your process too?
For sure. So painting for me is find something in the chaos. So I literally start most of my ones I've been doing recently with aerosol spray paint, aerosol acrylic, make an absolute mess on the canvas, squiggly lines, dark stuff here, light stuff there. And I just let the paint get really heavy, and I'll scrape it with a knife if it's really chunky or runny in one spot. And then I just have a really weird, awkward, kind of abstract looking background, but it's the right color palette for me. So like while I'm describing this, I can kind of flip my camera here. So this is my art prize piece that I'm doing right now. So this background was pretty much predominantly turquoise and black. So you can kind of see, right here, this is the actual background. Nothing's changed. Just kind of a sloppy mess of color, but you just find stuff and you find shapes when you're in there, and then it eventually turns to this. I don't pre-draw anything. I just kind of wing it. So whatever comes out is what's meant to be on there, man. So I've never been a pre-thought kind of guy. I'm gonna dive in and do it. So that's kind of where my stuff lands, I guess. Very sci-fi influenced. I'm a huge fan of motorcycles, hot rods, 50s, 60s car culture in general. That's kind of where my color palette comes from. outside of comics. I'm a huge comic book nerd too. So all of that stuff kind of plays into my style, I guess. And I'm still trying to figure out what that is. I just kind of, again, do what I do. And I guess you can kind of see a progression through me starting painting to now. In terms of learning stuff, I'm trying to learn every day. So again, with this painting I just showed you, I'm really trying to work on blending. I never really learned blending techniques. So I'm watching YouTube videos and going from there.
So I discovered this past weekend that we have a mutual friend that has some of your work in their house.
Yeah, Alan?
Yeah,
Yeah, right on.
Him and Ken came to the gallery on Saturday because they saw your show posted and decided that they needed to come and look at it because they already had some of your work. So yeah, it's a small world, but.
For sure. Alan's a great guy, man. I met him when I worked at Old Navy back in the day.
Okay.
Super awesome guy. Yeah, he saw some of my stuff I was posting in the beginning of COVID. And I was just, looking for money, looking for something. And I was like, hey, this is what I've drawn. If you guys like it, you can literally pay whatever you want. And he picked 3 things and he loves them. It looks great in his room. I don't know if you've seen the room he has it in.
No.
It's like a lime green. It's the most lime green I've ever seen. It's awesome.
Good. Well, you had described like when you start a piece of work and you've got heavy paint and you start using your knife. Is there ever what other tools do you use? Brushes at all, or is it?
So when I first start, for again the background, the base of the painting, I will use a brush. So I actually have some. Again, here it's like painter's brushes, ones that really aren't really meant for what's going on. I absolutely destroy them. I don't clean them. I think they're better when they're rough and dirty. But I do that every now and then to kind of scrape and shape stuff around in the background. But once I actually get to really painting, I do use brushes. And then I smear stuff with my fingers. I just make a mess. And then the mess turns into something awesome. If not, there's always paint to cover it up. So
do you, what does your studio look like?
So this is my basement / living area. Very sloppy, the usual. Little rat fink, hanging out holding a paintbrush. But Posca markers are my usual go-to. Again, just a hot mess of everything. I think most people's studios are like that. And I do have a spot in my garage with my roommates. The upper part of the garage we're actually going to rebuild. So he said, make a mess, get wild. So that's where I go to do the base background work with all the aerosol. And then once I'm done in there, I bring it inside here where I'm at. And I literally sit on my couch and stare at it and paint when I need to. So this is literally the angle that I will be sitting at 9 times out of 10, just sitting here staring. And then once I see something, I jump up in there and I go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've got some of TJ's work in a slideshow. We'll go to that right now so he can talk about some of these pieces that we have hanging in the gallery. Some I think there's a couple of them that we don't, but I will let him share. Let's see, I think we were, so anything you want to share about any of these, TJ, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So this one is a piece that I did, think possibly very beginning of the year, very end of last year. Again, started with a really rough background, and then kind of found shapes in there. Again, heavy turquoise, heavy neons. I'm red green colorblind, so having those heavy, drastic color changes really helped me out. I typically have a piece of white paper that I use to differentiate tone as best I can when I'm painting. But yeah, this one is really cool. It has MF Doom in the bottom. That's probably why it couldn't have been shown, which I understand. But MF Doom was a huge influence in, my personal life, my art. His music is usually in the background 9 times out of 10 when I'm painting. But this painting was also really cool because I experimented with texture. So the teeth of the guy in the blue helmet. The first time I've ever really experimented with texture. So like the gums and the different tonal ranges on there. Yeah, again, most of my stuff's an experiment. I always challenge myself in each painting. So that one was trying to deal with texture and blending.
Great.
This one, another really cool one. I did this one for my buddy Kent. He also is a huge MF Doom fan. So we got him in there, just passed away. The other person in that is Lord Quasimodo. He's a rapper, cartoon, and he did a lot of stuff cross with MF Doom. Again, I just kind of find shapes and stuff in the background. For this one, I believe the main base color is like an olive green, if memory serves. But yeah, I just draw until things make sense to give me a sense of calm. And that's what I found with this. Fun thing about this one, there's just a hidden Winnie the Pooh in one of the bubbles, which is, again, me just being me doing weird stuff. Right on. So this one is honestly one of my favorite paintings I've done so far. Still learning, still growing, still learning and practicing. But this one was a really big challenge for me in terms of her hair. Again, the tonal ranges, I know there's some fluctuation in there. I kind of guessed with the colors on it because, again, reds are a really hard tone for me. But overall, I really like it. Again, kind of space sci-fi vibes, but I always like to put, my nerdy influence in there. So I like to think that she's April O'Neil, and I like to think that, the other guy's Krang, and they're just doing stuff in off-world. So, again, nerdy influences, I always toss some fun in there. Cool. So this one is my second biggest painting outside of the one I'm currently working on. I just really want to challenge myself with, size, and just see if I could fill it. So the main thing that I challenged myself with on this one was, again, texture. So I really wanted to get his hair right. And I don't know if I necessarily pulled it off, but again, if I think a painting feels comfortable to me, I always say it's done. And that's what this one did for me. We got to a point where it's really heavy contrast with the black and the high neon colors. And again, just experimenting with his hair texture. Really, really fun. There's lots of hidden stuff in this one too. Again, Ninja Turtles theme. I don't know why that was in my brain for a couple paintings straight, but there's definitely a very small Michelangelo Donatello in the sewer. It's also marked as 122 1/8, which is a reference to the first movie for where they get the pizza delivered. Just super fun, super weird little stuff here and there. But again, I really like the color palette in this one. It just feels, kind of urban, hip, summertime, springy, and I'm ready for that. I love the spring and summer.
Yeah, you mentioned when you started to talk about this piece about feeling when you're done,
Yeah.
How do you, I'm sure it's hard to describe, when you're done, but do you ever look at a piece and like months or weeks or, when you think you've done, and then you go back and think, oh, I could do that. Yeah.
There's definitely stuff like that. That's why I try to get my stuff out of my field of vision once I say it's done, because I know I might keep on messing with it. But yeah, this painting was a challenge in terms of, when is it done? There's a lot of blank black space, but I really think I balanced that out with the white, and then that huge contrast of the color that I put in there just gave me a balance that felt okay. And once I felt calm with it, I just say it's good. There's definitely stuff I could do to fix it. There's definitely things I could change, but I think the imperfections that are noticeable on it are actually the things that make it more beautiful. So That's kind of where I land on it. That's where most of my art is. There's stuff that's not perfect, but those imperfections are just right for me, at least. So if it makes me feel good, hopefully it makes somebody else feel good. I don't know.
I like you said when you feel calm with it. I think you can get to that point with you know, any artist probably gets to that point where they feel good about it, feel calm with it.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll sit, again, there's definitely a lot of times when I'm painting, I'll sit for an hour, hour and a half, just staring at it, just, you know, getting immersed in it. And if you get to a certain point where like, this feels good, I'm not stressed out about this looking weird or this looking different. I feel all right. I feel good. And once I get to that point, I just stop and get it out of my way and start something else. So I don't have to keep on looking at it. But that's also the hard part, is I'm kind of immersed in, you know, my art in the small space that I have down here. So I have currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 10 paintings down here. So I try to turn them opposite so I don't see them and continue to work on.
Good idea.
So this one is my first attempt at a big painting. This was the very first one I did when I said I'm going to do stuff on a canvas that's A, more expensive, and B, a larger size than I've ever done before. It was kind of novice, you know, looking at it now. But, you know, again, it has character. It has a calm to it. And I personally really enjoy it. Again, lots of stuff that, you know, even from this to, you know, the one I'm currently working on, huge progression in terms of, you know, stuff I've learned in terms of brush work and, you know, blending. But yeah, this one just felt really good. I'm kind of obsessed again with sci-fi space stuff. And I definitely watched words are hard. The Fifth Element. I watched that, and then literally, you know, the next day I was like, hey, let's do something kind of spacey and kind of fun. And I kind of just fell into that style. And I think that's very prevalent in most of my works. So
good.
Yeah. So this one was actually a buffed out painting. A painting that I did originally underneath it, I absolutely hated, but I didn't want to waste a canvas. So I did come back to this one after a month or two, and you know, started to get back into it. It's like I can fix this. I can make this work. And once I started getting into it, it got really complex. There's a ton of little teeny lines and super small things that were super detail oriented. I personally love this really small detail oriented stuff, but that doesn't always benefit a painting. Sometimes it hinders it. But this one, I think, balanced out really well. It's very industrial, kind of plays into the whole, you know, I like cars. There's a little bit of a space car vibe to it. The green car is actually meant to be an old family car that we had. My brother and I loved it. It's a Toyota Camry. So it's kind of a small reference to that with, you know, some Porsche vibes and some other stuff. But yeah, this one was for my brother. I did it for his birthday. So
Great.
yeah. And then this one's a self-portrait. So this was, again, me at the very beginning of COVID, dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety. I was in peak COVID depression, and I decided to try my hand at painting. And this one's actually more so marker on canvas than it is paint. But we did blend over to kind of smooth things out with paint, with like a really nice wash on it. But yeah, it's just really rough. You can see the pain and depression that I had, you know, when I first started this. So obviously I've shaved the beard since then, but definitely a time capsule for me. Again, it was a very depressed and a very dark, weird spot to be in COVID, and I'm really stoked to be where I'm at now and be in a happier place.
And that little swirly thing down at the bottom is the stand that it's sitting in, not the part of the painting.
And then again, this one, beginning of me starting to attempt to paint. Again, I took a 6-year hiatus, completely changed my style. And I really, I'm gonna reference the person that I kind of stole a little bit of the style from. So my favorite artist, David Cho. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. Really, really cool guy. Really, really offbeat, really drastic. Does a lot of really cool interactive stuff with his paintings. You know, he'll paint with blood. He'll paint with, you know, soy sauce. You know, other stuff. But super interactive. But he posted a video at the beginning of COVID that was like a red dot test. So he was a blank canvas, blank piece of paper, did a red dot, and then you will draw to either accommodate that dot with a drawing, or you will draw around it. So this painting actually started off as a red dot. Then I got super squiggly, and the red dot got completely hidden, obviously, with that red-orange background. But, you know, COVID's going on. Obviously, there was also a very impactful, you know, Black Lives Matter movement. And, you know, it was on my mind. So it found its way into my art. So, again, I love it. The color work in there, I personally, just makes me feel warm, makes me feel good. And, you know, this person's ready for change. This person's ready for something to happen. He needs it. I need it. We need it. And, you know, I think that's definitely where my subconscious went with this one.
Great.
Yeah, so this one was actually another buffed out painting. But I was outside tail end of last summer going into fall, and my roommate's son was out there. I was like, hey man, put some white on this, grab a paintbrush. So he made the white mess over the gray, and I finished it up from there. It's my first time kind of trying a drip effect. Don't necessarily know if I pulled it off, but again, feels cool to me. I like the color palette. Again, kind of going into my mood and emotion at that time. I'm kind of getting out of the fog of depression. This person's kind of halfway happy, halfway making it out of some darkness, you know? And that's kind of where this one came from.
So as I mentioned, TJ is featured artist at the gallery this month. So, I mean, it's very, when you walk into the gallery and you see his whole wall of all of these pieces, and then there's others sitting around the gallery too. You know, you can see, I mean, it's just very dramatic, I think, when you see that whole wall full of his work. So if you get a chance, if you haven't been into the gallery, please make it an attempt to get there. So TJ, you've shared a lot with us already. Is there anything else before we open it up for questions that you want to share with our audience?
You know, that's pretty much it. I'm just really excited to be here. I'm really excited to, you know, be working with you guys and, you know, share that space with you. It's a really cool place to be. I'm just really happy you guys have it. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so anyone from our audience have any questions for TJ? Or comments, anything?
TJ,
Yeah.
I saw your gallery there, your paintings in the gallery last Saturday. It's quite bright and very vibrant colors. And yet you told us earlier that you are somewhat colorblind.
Yeah,
Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, so I'm red-green colorblind. So I can see color, but it's very muted for me, especially for certain tones. So that's why when I'm painting, I usually have this little piece of paper that I use to kind of help me try to discern tone. That's also why I kind of lean into really heavy neon colors. So I usually pretty much use the rule of 3. I don't even know if that's a real painting rule or not. But I'll use a darker base, a really bright on the other side, and then I find a way to kind of just blend it and mash together in the middle. So again, the tonal ranges don't necessarily make sense, but they make sense to me. So
But it does make sense. I love the color, and it's my husband also colorblind, not a total colorblind. So so sometimes it's funny how he interpret the way he sees my painting is kind of quite surprising, because I would paint something yellow or red or green, and then he would say, why everything is brown? So I often ask, when I paint something, and then I would ask, what do you see? Because I like to know how someone who cannot see color, the way I see color, it's always interests me on how you see color, like how you pick those yellow and the red, and talk a little bit how you select those color with the hair. You said that you have challenge picking the color of the hair, and how,
yeah.
to me, it
So
looks beautiful, but
yeah, so I see colors muted. I mean, I can still see reds, but they're very they're they're muddy. They're kind of opaque. So when I did the hair, at least I started with an actually really bright neon pink. So I always buy paints that have the exact color on the actual bottle, and then I'll actually do test samples too. So I'll have a piece of white paper in front of me. I'll do a splotch. I'll have a pretty decent gap between it. So if I can see that color against the white, I kind of get a rough idea tonally of where it would be. Then after that, I just do that rule of three that I don't even think is a rule. And again, kind of show differential. So that I do one that I know is darker, one that I know is super bright, but in that same color range. And then I just blend it and hopefully it looks okay. So for her hair, that was the first time I really challenged myself with that color. So I did like a really neon pink to start with, and then I did a maroon, and then blending those together kind of made a mishmash looking thing. And then I did black highlights in there to kind of separate the colors for me to kind of make it make sense. I'm sure people could have painted it where it actually looked, more realistic. But again, for me, using that black to kind of break up those colors in the hair, it really helped me out from my way of seeing it, at least.
So how do you know that the hair eventually, okay, this is the right color? How would you
I
determine
guess
that? That's fantastic.
that's pretty much where it's at. I'm like, this looks right to me, and if it looks right to me, hopefully it looks right to somebody else. But at the end of the day, these paintings are for me. These are, again, my escape from what's going on around me. It's my stress reducer. It's my anxiety purge. So again, if my art speaks to somebody, cool. But again, I do these for me personally, and it makes me feel good at the end of the day. So if the colors don't make sense, that's okay, because they're for me.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think you've hit it pretty well on most of them. They look normal, so I think
Right on.
I think you do a good job at what you do.
Yeah. I think the color composition is very nice. I came in Saturday. No, it was not Saturday. It was.
Yeah, you were there Saturday.
But I took that lesson on Thursday. That was when I saw it the first time, and I thought, wow, this is bright, and the way you are not afraid of using the space in a canvas. That's what I'm amazed about it, and yet it still look okay. You know how sometimes people tend to or tell us about how it's important to have space, when at least for me, I always tend to have a space in my canvas for my eyes to rest. But with yours is kind of very full, and yet it's allowing my eyes to kind of go around from side to side and go around, and
It's
so
definitely chaotic, but it's like a organized
oh,
chaos.
exactly, yeah. It's
Yeah,
not
no,
it's not chaos for the sake of chaos, but there is a story there that
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't intend to have stories with anything I do, but if it strings together and it shows up, awesome. Again, I just make a mess and have fun while doing it. But I'm really glad that you're able to see that and pull that from it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So TJ, a couple of thoughts I have. Do you know like the average time it takes to create one of your pieces?
Depends on the size. Most of the time, I can usually knock a painting out in about 3 weeks, at most a month. The one I'm currently working on is a 48 by 60.
Oh, that's
So
huge.
that painting is definitely taking me a lot longer than a month. But we're definitely getting on the home stretch of it at least. I at least have it roughed out to the point where I know that these things are going to stay where they are. And I can kind of get to focusing on, making it look right for me. But this painting's probably gonna be another 2-week process. But again, I'm gonna take my time with this one. It's for art prize, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it earlier, but I wanted to mention it again. You do work on it every day.
I do. Yeah, I was literally working on it when we first started. The Zoom. I'm always touching something. Again, I have a very small space down here, so when I'm sitting, eating food or hanging out with my cat, this is staring at me in the eye, and I have to touch something if I see it. If I don't do it when I see it, I'm gonna forget about it and I'm gonna regret it. So I'm always tinkering. I'm always doing something. But again, most days I get home from work, give or take 5:30, 6 o'clock. At minimum, I'm starting by 7. And I'm painting till at least 11. So again,
Do you
it's
do that every day?
pretty much every day. Yeah. So yesterday I took a brain break, and I drew for the day. I really, sometimes the brain just, you're so fried. You've seen the image too many times. You're just not feeling it. So that was me yesterday. Yesterday I started drawing again. Again, just typical doodles, sketchbook stuff, but just give the brain a break for the day, and I'm back to it today. So
Shri, I'll share with you, she swears by that too, that she works on something every day.
yeah,
Yep.
for sure. It's
Doodling is the best.
right.
Yeah.
It's again, I just took a 6-year hiatus, so I feel like I just have all the energy in the world right now. So it's just I'm gonna keep on pushing it. And it's been that you always got to work on your dream or your hobby. So this is me consistently working towards a dream, working towards an end goal. So I have to paint every day to get better at painting.
So what is your end goal, if I
Um,
may ask?
yeah, realistically, if I could, have a studio space that I'm able to do everything at one spot, that'd be awesome. It'd be also really, really cool if I could make a living at it, but I know that's a very hard thing to do for a lot of artists. So, but having it so that it takes a little more precedent over my main job would be, another benefit eventually. But again, this is for me. So I'll keep on doing it either way. But this is where I'm going for now. So, but a studio space would be awesome in the future.
Great. Any other questions for TJ?
So are you working on with acrylic or oil, or what's your medium, or mixed media, or what?
Predominantly acrylic. So I use a spray acrylic
Okay.
for most of my stuff. So Liquitex, my usual go-to for my backgrounds. Then beyond that, pretty much just acrylic. I do use Tosca paint pens And then every now and then, I don't even know what kind of pen this is. Faber-Castell.
Okay.
Just a little marker that I use that's a little bit more detailed, a little bit easier for me to get into places. They're all black, so.
Okay.
But pretty basic stuff. I don't like to spend a ton of money, kind of frugal in terms of that stuff. So, but yeah, predominantly acrylic for now, at least. I really want to start playing with watercolors though. I might try to do that next week.
Watercolor is a lot harder, actually.
I know.
Yeah, I learned from watercolor, and acrylic is fantastic because it's very forgiving, you know.
That's the main reason why I use it. I tried oils. My art price piece in 2014 was predominantly oil, and I just don't have the patience for it. It's you gotta work it too hard, and it's mucky, it's complicated for me. So at least for now. Again, I'm willing to try stuff again, but acrylic's my comfort zone at least.
Good. Well, we really appreciate you sharing your story with us tonight. And like I said, his work is on display at the gallery through May 23rd, and he'll have pieces in other shows down the road too. But to see his whole wall and everything that he has displayed there is really, really something. So I encourage you to get there if you haven't been. So any parting thoughts, TJ, before we let everyone go and enjoy their evening, the rest of their evening?
We're good. I'm gonna get back to painting. You guys have a good rest of the day.
All right.
Happy Tuesday.
Thank
Look
you,
at Tuesday.
TJ.
Well,
No
we'll
worries.
be anxious. We'll be anxious to see that finished piece.
Yeah.
Right
And I
on.
know
I'm excited to see it too.
He does take photos when he starts something at all the stages throughout. So, you know, and you can actually see one of the pieces that we showed you on the slideshow. He took a regression video that shows the beginning to the end result, and it's on our YouTube channel. So if you get a chance, go and view that as well. So he's really good about documenting that process. So
yeah, check it out there, or feel free to check out my Instagram.
Or what?
Sorry.
Yeah,
Are you on Facebook or Instagram or?
I am on Facebook. I don't have an artist page on there because I'm terrible at managing myself. But my Instagram's predominantly most of my art. So it's at TJ Ysseldyke. Pretty basic, but that's where most of my art stuff shows up. I usually post at least a picture a day. So feel free to go on there and scroll through. The further you scroll down, the more regression you'll see in all my pieces. So
Okay.
awesome.
Great.
We'll be connected. Thank you.
Enjoy your evening.
Thanks, CJ.